In life, we often find ourselves searching for a grand secret to success, thinking that it must be something extraordinary that makes the difference. But the truth is much simpler. Success comes from recognizing our own strengths, practicing with perseverance, and maintaining a positive mindset. Today's story will take you to a small town where a 12-year-old boy named David lives. His story reveals a simple yet profound truth. Everyone has their own unique talent, and with enough persistence, we can shine in any field we choose. What makes this story even more special is that it not only inspires us about success, but also offers valuable lessons for English learners, as each scene gives us the chance to practice vocabulary and improve expression. So as you follow David's journey, try placing yourself in his shoes. Feel his worries, disappointments, and also his determination and hope. Perhaps as you listen and reflect, you may even find a part of yourself within this story. So let's begin this small yet meaningful journey with David, where a simple lesson can change the way we see ourselves and the path to success ahead. In a peaceful little town, where tree-lined streets offered cool shade and birdsong filled the morning air, there lived a family in a modest house on the corner. In that family was a 12-year-old boy named David. He was in the 6th grade, an age of innocence, mischief, and endless energy. To his friends and neighbors, David was a lively boy, always running around, exploring, and never able to sit still. But his greatest passion was soccer. Every afternoon after school, when the last rays of sunlight bathed the public field, David would dash out with his familiar ball. Though it was just a small field with a few rusty goalposts, to him it was a dream world. There, David practiced every kick, every pass, learning to control the ball as if it were his closest friend. Soccer made him feel strong, joyful, and truly himself. Yet alongside that happiness, David carried worries he rarely spoke of. In class, especially in math, he often struggled. His neighbor and best friend Matt excelled effortlessly with numbers. Every test returned with high marks for Matt, while David barely managed to pass. That difference sometimes left David feeling sad and insecure. One afternoon after school, he sank into the sofa, eyes distant and heavy with thought. At that very moment, he had no idea that a simple conversation with his father was about to open the door to important lessons that would change the way David saw himself. That afternoon, as David lay stretched out on the sofa with a vacant gaze, his father walked in from the backyard. At once, he noticed something was wrong with his usually energetic son. Gently, he sat down beside him, placed a hand on David's shoulder, and asked, "Son, what's troubling you?" At first, David stayed silent, but soon his eyes grew red. He confessed that he had just received a low grade on his math test, and what discouraged him even more was the feeling of falling behind his best friend Matt, who always scored high in the subject. With a choked voice, David said, "I've tried so hard, but I'll never be as good as him." His father listened without interrupting, only nodding quietly so his son could pour out his heart. When David finally stopped, his father gave a gentle smile, then stood up to pour a glass of cool water and handed it to him. Once he saw that David had calmed down, he softly said, "Son, today I'm going to teach you 3 important lessons. These lessons will stay with you for life, helping you understand yourself and discover your own path." In David's eyes now shone a mix of curiosity and hope. He didn't yet know what his father was about to teach him, but deep inside, he believed his father's words would truly matter. The next morning, David's father gave him his first challenge: invite Matt to play soccer with him. Hearing this, David was a little surprised, but he nodded in agreement. That afternoon, under the bright blue sky, the 2 boys stepped onto their familiar soccer field. David dashed across the pitch, his kicks powerful and precise. Before long, he scored 3 goals in a row, becoming the star of the match. In contrast, Matt struggled clumsily with the ball, repeatedly losing possession and making mistakes. After the game, the 2 still laughed and joked together, but inside, David felt a spark of pride. He hurried home to tell his father what had happened. His father gently nodded and said, "You see, Matt may be good at math, but he's not good at soccer like you. You may not excel in math, but you shine in the sport you love. Everyone has their own strengths, and no one is required to be good at the same things." Hearing this, David suddenly realized a simple truth he had never thought of before. Everyone has a place to shine. The key is finding the right place where you belong. The next day, David's father gave him a new challenge. He told David to pay attention to what Matt usually did with numbers at school. That entire day, David quietly observed. He saw Matt completely absorbed in math problems during class, excitedly solving puzzles at recess, and even when picking a flower. Matt curiously counted every single petal. When David returned home, he told his father everything he had seen. His father smiled and said, "Do you see now? Matt isn't good at math just because he's smart. It's because he truly enjoys it and practices constantly. When we love something, repeating it over and over no longer feels like a burden, but becomes a joy." David nodded softly. In his mind, he suddenly pictured himself with a soccer ball. How every single day he played, practiced for hours, and improved because of it. For the first time, David understood clearly that to become good at something, there is no magic, only love and persistent practice. When David eagerly asked about the third lesson, his father paused thoughtfully and then said, "Why don't you try to measure how many times better Matt is at math than you?" David thought for a moment and answered, "I think Matt is about 3 times better than me." His father smiled. "Then your final challenge is this. Tomorrow, study math 3 times as much as usual." Hearing that, David felt a pang of anxiety, but he still nodded with determination. The next day, after returning home, he opened his books and began to study. 1 hour passed, then 2, and his mind began to tighten with strain. By the 3rd hour, the numbers turned into a burden. His eyes blurred and his head throbbed. At last, David collapsed onto the desk and fell asleep without realizing it. That night, his father gently woke him for dinner. David lowered his head in disappointment and whispered, "I'm sorry, Dad. I couldn't complete the challenge." The father did not scold him. Instead, he gently patted his son's head and said, "My boy, this is exactly what I wanted you to understand. When you try 3 times harder at something you don't love, you quickly become exhausted and give up easily. But with soccer, even if you play all day, you still feel happy, don't you?" David looked up, his eyes glowing with realization. His father continued, "Perseverance does not come from force, it comes from love and passion. If you truly want to be good at something, choose what you love or learn to love what you are doing. That is the real key to lasting success." Those words echoed in David's heart, planting a new understanding within him. Success is not about forcing yourself to become someone else, but about finding joy in the journey of learning and growth. After the 3 challenges, David felt that he had grown so much. He no longer looked at Matt with envy, but with respect. He realized that Matt's joy in mathematics was just like his own joy in soccer. Each person follows a different path, and both deserve to be appreciated. When he returned to class, instead of feeling sad about his grades, David began to approach math little by little, without so much pressure. He even shared this story with his friends, encouraging them to discover their own strengths. In David's heart, his father's words had become a guiding principle. Learn what you love or love what you learn. David's story is not just for a 12-year-old boy. It is a lesson for anyone who struggles with comparison and self-doubt. In life, it's easy to look at others and feel inferior. But the truth is, everyone has their own strengths, and it is passion combined with consistent practice that determines success. If you are exhausted from studying a difficult subject, remember, you can absolutely improve with steady practice and by learning to find joy in it. And if you feel discouraged because someone else seems better than you, ask yourself, what truly makes me happy? Because that is where you will shine. The story ends with David promising his father that he would remember those 3 lessons for life. He understood that everyone has unique strengths, that perseverance leads us far, and that love for what we do is the fire that keeps us moving forward on a long journey. Just like learning English or any other skill, progress doesn't come overnight, but through steady practice and by finding joy in the process. So be like David, brave enough to recognize your own value, persistent with what you love, and always willing to keep learning. Who knows? You may also discover your very own secret to success. If this story touched your heart, please consider subscribing and joining our little community. Your support means the world. Thank you for listening. If you'd like more stories like this, don't forget to subscribe. It helps us keep sharing moments that inspire. Every story is more meaningful when shared. Subscribe and be part of our journey so we can keep growing together. Your support keeps this channel alive. If you enjoyed the story, a simple subscribe or like would mean so much.